Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, we are going to be going back to Halo 2 and tackling the mystery of the secret switch on High Charity. And we are going to be solving it actually and explaining to you exactly what it is. So, we're going to start off as always with a refresher of what the secret switch is and where it is. So, on a mission High Charity, or in the game files it's called Forerunner Ship if you're more used to game file names, in this room where all these platforms come down and the drones fly in and you gotta cross platforms, if you look over here to like the right in a distance, on adversary graphics you can see it pretty easily out in the distance, but in classic graphics you kind of have to like zoom in to be able to see it. But out there in the distance there's a random floating Covenant switch out there that just really has no reason to be there. You know, it's just randomly there, floating, doing nothing, and there was a lot of speculation back in the day about what it was and what would happen if you hit the switch. Actually, one of the big myths and rumors and legends back then was that hitting that switch would activate, well, it was rumored that, like, you know, at one point in the game development, hitting the switch would activate the Tri-Gates in Halo 2, which is like some rumored transportation system that was supposed to be part of Halo 2's story that was cut from the game because, you know, Bungie didn't have the time to implement it. I don't know like how much of that original story was true, but hitting that switch does nothing. A couple of years ago, for like an older video, I did manage to hit the switch and basically showed you that hitting the switch does nothing at all. But I mean, it does make a sound when you press it, but other than that, nothing happens. So, is it a placeholder for something like the switch on Delta Halo at the very end, or was it some cut switch for something else in the game? Well, to find out, let's take a look in the game files at what the switch is exactly. So the switch is a control device, and it's called a temp_door_switch. So temporary door switch, essentially, which makes it sound like it's a placeholder for something, right? Well, in the list of control object spawns, or just the controls, this is the switch that we're talking about, that we're looking at, and that's where it spawns. That's its exact spawn location with all the coordinates, which if you have Project Cartographer, you could actually see your coordinates and figure out like which switch is the correct one. Fun fact, there's actually 3 other switches in addition to that one hidden throughout the game, throughout that map. But I actually have not been able to locate these even with the coordinates. They seem to be like inside like buildings or walls and just don't show up. But we'll talk about those a little bit later. So going back to this particular switch, it has a name index of 141. So looking at the list of object names, going to number 141, that switch is called a lift_C_control. Lift C control, basically. Now in Halo 2, gravity lifts and stuff like that are usually considered machine objects, or just machines. So looking at that machine palette, the very first machine, this is actually pretty easy to dig up because it happens to be the first one on the list. And we know like this particular machine is the one where the lift is because it has the same spawn location, almost the same. It's slightly below the switch, but it has basically the same location as the switch, so that's how we know this particular machine or lift is corresponding to the switch. Now, looking at the name index of the machine, it has a name index of 140. So going back to the list of object names, number 140 is called lift_C, which correctly corresponds with the switch, which is lift_C under control. So the switch controls the grav lift or the elevator lift. I'm not sure which one it is, but so it's supposed to spawn a some kind of elevator lift or something, and then you press the switch and it goes up or down. The problem with that though is that the elevator doesn't exist. You see right here, the machine's pallet index has a value of -1. The pallet index, whatever the number is, it tells the game which object to spawn for that machine spawn location. So if it had like number 1 or number 2, it would spawn whatever the first or second object is, or actually the second or third, because it actually starts from 0, not 1. But it would spawn the object that's on that list at that number. However, in this case, because the index is -1, that basically means it will spawn nothing. It's the object does not exist at -1, and in this particular case, the lift is also most likely deleted as well. It doesn't exist in game files anymore. It's just left over. Fun fact, actually, of the other 3 switches that are hidden throughout that mission, this last one here at the bottom actually also has a lift that corresponds with its switch. All three are actually control switches, but this third one also has a lift that corresponds with it in the list of machines. However, just like the one we just saw, that one also has a value of -1 for its pallet index, meaning even if you could find that switch, which I haven't been able to so far, it also wouldn't have a lift with it. And as for the other two, they are control switches, but they don't have anything associated with them anymore. So those lifts A and B in those cases are all, completely gone, including their names. Only lift C and D still exist, name-wise, but the actual object does not exist anymore. So, what does this all mean, in a nutshell? Well, essentially, that switch on High Charity is left over from earlier in game development. At some point, there was supposed to be 4 switches throughout this mission. Each switch would activate and you would go up a lift, or you would turn on the lift and go up or down it somehow. However, those are all deleted. 2 of them were deleted more thoroughly than the other 2, and this switch is the only one left that's viewable in game. The other 3 switches, while they do have spawn points, I don't know where they are. Even going to the exact location, they're not there, so they may not have correct spawns or proper spawns anymore for some reason. But essentially, the switch is just leftover cut content from the early days of Halo 2 development. At some point, it was meant to control some elevator lift, and I guess for whatever reason, Bungie decided to cut that from this mission. Maybe because there'd be way too many, because you already have that one lift at the end of the mission where you go to the Prophet's chambers. But, aside from that, that's the only lift on this mission that remains. So, yeah, there you guys have it. That basically solves the mystery of what the secret switch on High Charity is. It is, the old theories of it being from a leftover, gameplay element in Halo 2's early development, like the tri-gates, activating the gates and stuff, that's partially correct. It does activate something, but it has nothing to do with that old tri-gate theory. Instead, it just activates other elevators or lifts, which don't exist anymore. So yeah, that's basically all there is to these secret switches on High Charity. They're just leftover pieces from early in Halo 2's development, and other than that, they are pretty much unused throughout the whole mission. And that one that's floating there, it was just, left there by accident and isn't supposed to be there anymore. It doesn't do anything. But yeah, so hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, leave your thoughts in the comments. And I also do want to thank my friend Nibre for helping me figure out the link between the switch and the lifts. And other than that, if there's anything else you guys wanted to check out or look into, or any other questions you have, feel free to ask or let me know in the comments. But other than that, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye guys!